good, everybody? This is Board Figures, and for this special holiday edition, you're looking at the SHfiguarts Darth Vader from the Obi Wan Kenobi series. And from what I've seen from anybody who's gotten the figure, anybody who's seen some of the promo pics online, this just might be the definitive Darth Vader figure for your 1/12 scale collection, something that a lot of people have felt was missing. And by no means is any figure perfect, but this figure seems to come a lot closer than some of the examples we've seen in the past. Unfortunately though, it does seem like this figure might be a limited release only available overseas. I did wait a little too long. I almost missed my opportunity to get this figure because of how long I waited to pull the trigger. The day after I ordered it, it was sold out. And to this day, it is still sold out on Hobby Link Japan, which is unfortunate for a lot of people who would want to have this figure in their collection. Nonetheless, that is the current situation. I hope that changes. I hope that people get a chance to get a hold of this figure. It seems like it might be the best Darth Vader figure that we have seen to date. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and get this open. And we can go ahead and get him out of there and take a look at everything he comes with. First, we can take a look at this box and this wonderful mural of Darth Vader in the back that honestly you could just pull out and this would be a nice little poster to put somewhere. Go ahead and put that out of the way and take a look at Darth Vader here. Oh man, pretty good looking. And this is just, this is just him straight out of the box, no posing. Haven't finished with the cape much. Probably gonna spend a lot of time trying to experiment with all of that because it is quite a lot to handle, as you can see. But overall, first impressions, great looking figure. So we can go ahead and put him out of the way for a second and take a look at the accessories that he comes with. First and foremost, we'll start off with the accessory that is probably the most exciting, if I could get it out of the box. Here we go. This is going to be the alternate head portrait that he comes with, suitably gashed from that battle at the end of Obi-Wan. Again, a show that I've said in the past I'm not the biggest fan of. I think it's pretty mid, but I think aesthetically and visually the artist did an incredible job with this show, and I do think that this might be a definitive look for Darth Vader. Just a nice bonus for this figure. And for the sake of my sanity, so I'm not trying to battle against this package the entire time, we're going to go ahead and dump everything out. First, he does come with two lightsaber hilts. They appear to be, to my eye, identical, except one of them has no peg hole, and the other one has a peg hole, which is kind of weird. Like, I mean, it's a bit redundant. I appreciate it. I guess this one also is meant to be on his hip. It does have another peg hole, whereas this one does not, for putting on his hip. That's something that SHfiguarts seems to do a lot. They opt for the alternate piece that serves a purpose rather than trying to engineer it in some sort of toyish way to attach to the belt with like an extra peg jutting out. So you get an authentically realistic looking lightsaber and then an additional one that you can put on the belt without having to worry about it having some sort of peg. On top of that, we also get two actual lightsaber blades here. We get the standard, and then we get more of the whooshing effect. I know Black Series has done it time to time. I think Mayfex has as well, but I have never possessed one of these, so this is my first experience with it. And we can go ahead and pop it into the hilt. It looks like it goes this way, matching the direction of the angle of the lightsaber blade there and the angle of the hilt. Just line that up. It is a bit of a tight fit. And one thing I really like about this that I've noticed other companies drop the ball a little bit on this, though, just have it fan evenly in each direction, but they made sure to have the leading edge of the blade straight up and the trail kind of come behind it, so you get an accurate sense of direction for the way that the lightsaber swooshes, which is pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Honestly, an incredible accessory that gives you opportunities for some very dynamic action figure swinging poses. Next, we get an alternate chest plate, suitably damaged up. Looks really good. And looking at this, I have seen other people saying that this wouldn't be too hard to model and 3D print alternative ones. Like if you wanted one with the color schemes from Empire or Return of the Jedi, you could obviously opt for that. I'm sure it'll be a matter of time before people start 3D printing and making their own. Lastly, we come with an array of hands, so we're going to try and go through these one by one. Firstly, we start off with the two pointer fingers. Very decisive, demanding, commanding. Then we've got two trigger finger or force choking, more likely hands for both the left and the right, which is nice to have that versatility. We've got two gripping hands for his lightsabers. We also get a pair of relaxed hands. And then we get another set of relaxed hands. These feel a little bit more, just because of the way the thumb is poking out and the curling of the fingers, feels a little bit more like a, come hither, join me, Luke hand, and we do get 2 of those. And lastly, obviously, we've got his force using hands, his Kamehameha blasts, his grabbing the top of somebody's skull.
Michael Jordan! What the hell is wrong with you?
His Spider-Man wall crawler. Whatever you want to use them for, he's obviously got those hands as well. And that's going to do it for accessories, so we'll go ahead and get Vader standing here. This is just him straight out of the box. I haven't messed with anything. I haven't messed with much of his posing, messed with the cape at all. What I'm going to do at this point is take a little bit of a discovery period, maybe take a couple hours, maybe take a couple days, just to get to know the figure a little bit, find out what sort of things it does really well, find out some of its shortcomings, and just try and get to know the figure for a little while, as long as that takes, before I come back and give you guys, a better opinion on some of the posing, articulation, and size comparison. So, and we fast forward a few days, and I've spent a lot of time with this figure, and I hate to use the P word, but it just might be perfect. Okay, it does have a few slight shortcomings, some nitpicks here and there. I think overall, you can't find a more definitive Vader at this scale. And maybe we'll get a better Vader in the future, but I can't imagine all too much to improve on outside of the minor things here and there that this figure has some issues with. As you can see, I've got him standing here, sort of beckoning to you, requesting that you join him in the dark side of the Force. I've got his tunic flowing in the wind a little bit, giving a little bit of action. And I've also opted to not have his cape on in this segment. I think we'll have an entire segment for the cape, because a lot of people have trouble dealing with these large capes with multiple wires. So I thought it would be fun to have a little segment where we have a posing session with just the cape. You notice the Anakin in him, which people have been responding to my stories on Instagram. They didn't realize just how much the Clone Wars Anakin look pulled from Darth Vader's look. And then chronologically, how much Darth Vader's look is a development of Anakin in his Clone Wars armor. I think we can bring him in here and look at some of the details that are worth appreciating. You got that high-class helmet that is a fingerprint magnet, and every once in a while you just got to come in here with the microfiber, give him a little polish. How was your day, Vader? Oh, I'm so sorry that the rebels have been stressing you out. This is what he has all those officers doing on the ship. Then you've got this beautiful pauldron with the silver accents and the high gloss black. You've got the panel on his torso with some clear elements that help give a bit more life to the buttons. You've got the pleats on the sides of his tunic, which I think just add a little bit more character to the tunic itself. You've got all the extra detail on his belt with his lightsaber on its little hook latch. And you've got all the detail in the leather on his cod piece with the stretching and pulling, his tunic that is wired, and I have flowing back. I mean, all in all, the figure is just beautiful. I think the thing that really helps send it over the top is its overall body proportion. So I'd like to now compare this figure to my other Vader in my collection to kind of look at the proportions, which I think is the one thing that this figure really nails more than anything else. For the sake of that, I'm going to get him in a sort of factory pose just so we can look at him standing straight up and down to compare. We've got a lot of Darth Vaders out there. We've got the Mafex, the other SHfiguarts. We've had Reveltech, if you're into that, the damn creature of the Black Lagoon crawling out. And then obviously you've got all of the different variations from the Black series. And while I think we've had some decent selections for Vaders, none of them have really scratched that itch for me and for a lot of other people. You will notice that there is a bit of springiness to these shoulder joints. A lot of people have trouble with getting them to stay down without separating. But really, I think you just have to give it gentle and consistent pressure, get it where you want it, and then it'll be fine. If you're pressing too hard, it's going to bounce back. So just a little bit of intent and consistent pressure and being gentle with it is going to help it cooperate with you better. We've got him standing straight up and down here, so we'll bring in his comparison. This is going to be the Vader that I have in my collection. This is the Black Series Empire Strikes Back Vader. I believe it's the 40th anniversary one, and I don't hate this figure. I think compared to a lot of the other options out there, I did prefer it over the Mafex and over the SHfiguarts in the past. Mostly I don't like the whole traffic cone situation. I know a lot of people really like the Mafex, but I think it has a beer gut, and I think its helmet is a little bit too small. And the SHfiguarts also had just that weird looking dog nose helmet in their initial iterations. So at the time, this figure being cheaper and, in my opinion, looking better was the best thing to go for. Can get his cape kind of draping, but it not having any sort of wire in it, it does give you this kind of Dorito shape, and you can kind of coerce it back and fold it like so, but all you're doing is creating that in the back direction, and it's just hard to tame. For the sake of this comparison though, we're going to take that off, and we're going to try and just look at them and their proportions. That's my main goal in this comparison. We're clearly dealing with two figures from very different price points. Aside from overall finish and articulation, the main thing I want to focus on here is proportions, because proportions is something the Black Series can do right and has done a lot better more recently. So if they ever want to take another crack at Darth Vader, build it, start new. It doesn't have to have all the articulation that's here with the SHfiguarts. It just needs to have solid articulation and just a better sculpt. While this Darth Vader is alright, it leaves a lot to be desired, and no more clear as that when standing next to the SHfiguarts. Which I admit, it's kind of hard to see them right now against my backdrop, so I'm going to bring in a piece of cardstock, white cardstock, just to help cut them out a little bit better. And I think now you begin to see what I'm talking about with the proportions and the overall silhouette of the figure. I think they both have pretty decent helmets. I do prefer the SHfiguarts. It has more intimidation behind it. It has the more angular eyes, whereas the Black Series one has the sort of, I think it's more like the New Hope version of Vader, where he has the like puppy dog kind of sad eyes. It's not that it's inaccurate, it's just not my preference when it comes to Vader, and this one ends up being a little bit more intimidating. I think the bucket shape overall, much nicer silhouette, whereas this one has a very long neck that kind of throws it off. And for me, the biggest point is the shoulders. SHfiguarts has very broad, very demanding shoulders that help cut into a nice X-frame on his body with the narrow waist and the bulky legs, whereas this one, once you get to the actual shoulder pieces on the pauldron, it just kind of slopes off, and it just has to do with the way they sculpted it and integrated it into the articulation. And for the sake of bringing it up, I think the Vintage Collection Darth Vader is probably my favorite Darth Vader that I own, besides this SHfiguarts. They had a much nicer solution to that. You have the broad shoulders and the nice pauldron shape, and it's all one piece, but it doesn't get in the way of articulation because they put a little slit here on the back to allow it to move and mold up without hindering any sort of articulation. And it seems like the Vintage Collection, if the Black Series could take a couple notes from it, they'd have some money on them, I think. I'll probably talk about that figure a little bit more later because I think it's worth talking about. But to continue where I left off, the shoulders here, they slope very heavily. He doesn't have as narrow of a waist. And I think the worst offender, combined with all of that, is these really thick balloon-like legs that are very bulbous at both the thigh and the calf in a unnatural looking way. And when you combine that with the sloping, narrow shoulders and the tunic that doesn't particularly drape the best, you just get a bit of a frumpy Vader. And when you put it alongside this SHfiguarts one, it's so much more mean and athletic and intimidating. It has that X-frame. Seeing as Darth Vader's original body double, David Prowse, was a bodybuilder, you know, it really matches the frame that we have grown to know with Vader, even if we don't see him without the cape just about ever. We are talking about two very different price ranges when it comes to figures. SHfiguarts is double, triple the price of the Black Series one. This specific one, I believe, resells now for like $30, $35 new, but Darth Vader is one of their figures that is evergreen, so they almost always have one in stock somewhere around $20-ish, $25, $27, $28 now. So really, we're gonna look at the $27-ish range. And for the SHfiguarts one, I actually got a pretty good deal. It was on sale on Hobby Link at the time. I got this figure, shipping included, from Japan for just under $70, which is not a bad deal. I'm not gonna say that the $100 plus $150 resale prices right now are worth it, but if you want a perfect figure for your shelf, and if they don't end up re-releasing it, which I hope they do in America, you might have to bite the bullet. I think that's all I really have to say between the comparisons of those two figures. Now we can move on to a bit of articulation with the SHfiguarts Vader. We'll go through things bit by bit a little bit. You got pretty decent range at the head. I do think the Black Series works a little bit better because it gets a little bit more range because this one goes down into a hole that's inside of the armor, and it just kind of limits it overall. But you do get decent range in most directions that you can kind of add complement to most movements. Then you've got some hinges at the shoulder that go pretty much all the way. You do have to kind of work with this shoulder pauldron piece a little bit, but you can get it pretty much up to vertical. In some cases, I'm pretty sure I've been able to get it further than that. You do have articulation with this little shoulder piece. Again, like I said, it kind of bounces back, but you can get it to stay. You do get double jointed elbows and then a ball hinge at the wrist that gives you plenty of range in all directions, but you are limited by the glove tops just a little bit. You can pretty much crunch all the way down to the control panel. You can arch way back, and it doesn't obstruct or mess up the sculpt all too much. You do have this tunic with wires that runs all the way down. It does have these nice pleats, like I said. I think that's an element that I took for granted. Then as far as the leg articulation, we do have drop down hips, as you can see, and it doesn't really affect the range all too much. You can pretty much get up to maybe a little bit past 90, and even with it pushed back up, it still gets just about the same. So it's kind of functionless, but it does help if you want to make your Vader a little bit taller. You also have double jointed knees, and the ankles are probably the biggest nitpick that some people have, mostly just this foot. And it seems like this might have been an issue with the previous SHfiguarts Vader as well, that they just haven't improved on. We can wedge this out and be very gentle with it. There we go, comes right out. You've got a ball socket and a ball peg on the foot, which together gives you pretty decent range. On this foot, you get some down, you get some up, and you get a decent amount of rocker and tilt. On this foot, it is pretty much locked in place. You get a little bit up and down, a little bit of wiggle. Can't really pivot too much. It's weird because if you heat it up, it does give all the range. If you really need that range, if you really need that extra movement you're not getting. Outside of that though, the articulation is outstanding for a character like Vader, and being able to see him in some much more dynamic poses than we typically get to see him in is really exciting and really fun to play with. With that in mind, we're gonna do a little bit of posing here. So what I wanna do is I want to give him a lightsaber. So we're gonna pop off his right hand, because I think Vader is right-handed. Can pop on his lightsaber wielding hand, and then we will take off his lightsaber off his hilt because he doesn't need both of them, and then we're going to bring in his lightsaber and we're going to attach the neutral blade, pop it in his hand there. See if we can get the direction of that ball peg to cooperate with us.
Are you going to make the first move or what?
And then we can have him arching up like he's going in for a slash on you.
I guess not.
And we can pop that out for a second. See if we can get him into some pretty standard poses. Let's go for a walking pose. Try to think about how Vader would walk. He would want to present himself intimidating and powerful. There we go. And we can see if we can get him down into some running poses, which we almost never see Vader running, so this might be kind of fun to see. We are somewhat limited by the movement on the head. I'd like to make him look up more, maybe a bit more tilt. You know, he can move pretty well, especially for a Vader. It's not something that we see with him all too often, so can you really complain that he can even get down this much? And we will now go back to a neutral pose, because I am going to take a look at the cape now. We can try and tame this tunic a little bit, get it wrapped back around, have it rest where I want it to. I think I'm going to have this hand resting on his hip here, this arm by his side, get the shoulder pieces just right, adjust his feet, have him with his chest kind of popped out a little bit, and we are going to put on his cape, which I have pre-posed for starters. This is just to show, I know a lot of people are concerned with the wires. It becomes a little difficult to just get it to drape naturally. I would like to show you guys with a little bit of time and intent and a little bit of thought behind the way that you maneuver it, you can get a pretty effective and good looking drape with this cape. For some people, they like to just be able to go like this. You know, you've seen the maneuver. You've probably done it. We're all guilty because we just want to be able to slap it on the shelf and leave it. I mean, that's not the art of the game, you know. We pose these figures. If it was just like that, we'd just buy statues. We wouldn't buy figures. We like to put our touch posing the figure and giving it that little bit of life that comes from us. Part of that is going to have to be figuring out these capes. More and more companies are trying to do the wired cape route, and we hope that it continues to become a norm because it's fun, it's dynamic, it's interesting. Some people prefer the plastic capes, but I think on a character like Vader, we can all agree that having a cape, especially one with wires that can move and maneuver, is just going to give so much more playability and fun. So when it comes to these capes, the first thing that I like to think about is the way they fall and fold. If I pull out my custom Superman here, I made this cape, pretty proud of it. I do need to redo it at some point though. It does have mismatched kind of thread. It's a bit rough on some of the corners. And one of the main things that helps it get this pleated look on the back, that helps it fall and rest nicely, are these what are called pipe folds. There's various different types of folds that occur. At this scale, it's really hard to accomplish intentional hemlock folds, but it is possible to get these pipe folds with wires that then help give you nice pleats and a little bit more control. You can see it helps the way that it drapes out of his shoulders, and a big proponent is going to be trying to figure out those pipe folds and where you want to place them strategically. As you can see on the Vader figure here, I do have an array of pipe folds on both the tunic and the cape itself that are all strategically placed in such a way that help it align the way I want. Helps this part fold over and be in front of the other part, helping giving it a natural drape, is all because of this fold right here. On the front, where this part goes around right here, is because of these pipe folds right here that help it do that. All that being said, we're about to ruin it because now I want to do some articulation with it in dynamic cape poses, and then see if we can look at how you would get it back to that resting position after doing so. The lucky thing about pipe folds is as you maneuver and move the cape, they mostly stay in the same position. You might have to do some fine tuning once you try and put it back, but they will mostly align the same way, and in most poses, you probably won't want to or need to change that. So we can get this cape flowing back. As I said, you've got so many wires in it that you can really maneuver and get some really dynamic action out of. That combined with his tunic flowing in the wind, we can just have him standing there. Such a beautiful figure, guys. I cannot get over it. I think now I want to go for some lightsaber swinging poses again. We're going to give him two hands. We're going to go for a double-handed lightsaber pose. So we'll line that up, put on the new hand, and figure out how we want him to be posed. Let's say he's taking a step and he's got his blade. Using those butterfly joints, you can really get some great posing. Go ahead and pop that lightsaber in. Now we have him at the ready. Kind of think of him as like a broadsword user a little bit, especially in his Darth Vader form, since he can't move quite as well as he used to. But with this figure, you can make him do whatever you want. Now I'm going to see if I can bring it up a little bit, have him kind of going for this overhead swing. I am fighting a little bit with his pauldron here, but in the end, you can get him down right there. And that's part of the art of the hobby, you know? It takes a little bit of time and intent, but that's why we do it. That's why we enjoy posing. It's kind of like a puzzle. Playing some trickery with the camera, working with the articulation and figuring it out. And on a figure like this, it looks great. Now I want to swap out this lightsaber blade. We're going to put in the slashing effect. Make sure you line it up with the diagonal. And obviously we've got the leading edge, and we've got some fingerprints on here, so we're just going to do a little polishing. And then we can pop it in here, making sure the leading edge is facing the right direction. And I think I'm going to have it slashed down. Let's go at an angle, and we'll swap out this hand if we can. Gotta be careful. There we go. Pop on this force hand. See if we can find that hinge. There it is, going in this direction. Giving a little force grab, force push. Is him, Himmy Johns, Himothy, Him Vader. We're gonna put him back into that resting pose again and see how difficult it's going to be to coerce this cape back where we started. Pop this shoulder back up, try and get the belt a little bit more even. Go ahead and put back on his lightsaber. Maneuver this arm up. I think I'm going to swap the hand back out for that more relaxed hand, because I want my Vader to look calm and demanding. Bend that wrist just right, hit that elbow back, have him facing forward, relaxed hand down by his side. Let's spread out his stance a little bit. First we'll finish with this tunic, try and get it right. Gotta curl it a little bit here so that it's not curling out on the inside. A lot of that is affected by the bottom. There we go. I think that's pretty alright. We do have a bit pushing out here, so I'm going to try and tuck and roll just a little bit. And now we get to mess with this cape. We've got this one still over the shoulder decently well. What I like to do when I'm trying to straighten it is I will find the part where I want to bend, and I will place my thumb there, give it a little bend and press, and I'm going to hold as I pull and straighten the wire back out. And then I get to the bottom, give it a little bit of curl. Not too much on this side, I think it'll be draping a lot more. See if I can press together some of these pipe folds so that it rests back where I want it to. Now we've got this side that we really want to drape effectively. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to hold my thumb. I'm going to kind of give it a little bend right here that's going to help it rest on the pauldron a little better, and then press it down with my thumb as I do the same strategy to straighten out the wire. There we go. On the bottom of this one I will add a little curl. Now I want to get it to actually drape in front of him. That's going to be mostly in adjusting these pipe folds, trying not to undo them completely. There we go. So we're trying to get that shape, bringing it in. Now if we look at him head on, see how he's looking. I think that's looking pretty good. We got a bit of a billowy part here that I tend to fight with a lot. That's not really anything the wires can do too much with. I might have to iron it, but you know, it's going down a little bit. It's not too bad. And let's see how he looks. Let's take a step back and look. Let me get this pulled out just a little bit before I do. What do we think? I think he looks pretty good. You get the one side draping over the shoulder on the opposite side. A little asymmetry, helping break it up, but we do get the draping cloak action. And there we have him. As we look again, pipe folds, still pretty manageable. If you feel like you want to copy mine, feel free to go ahead and try. It's definitely not the easiest thing to do, but you just have to think about what areas you want to wrap around, how much you can pipe fold it on itself. You see I've got a few bunched up, especially when you're dealing with so much cloth. It's going to be a necessary thing, and it's also going to be something that would naturally happen with a massive cloak like this that was that size. It would drape over itself, or it would fold over itself quite a bit. Another thing to consider is the points of tension. You have gravity pulling the cloak down, and your points of tension are going to be the shoulders, so you want everything to be pulling down from the shoulder, not to be going out and then down. That wouldn't make much sense. We're going to give Vader one last little polish up before we jump into some size comparisons. And we're going to do quite a lot of size comparisons because Vader is such an iconic character. I want to see him alongside as many figures as I can for this part of the video. And we're going to start off with nothing else but the Empire. So we're going to put 2 flanking stormtroopers on either side of him. Next, we're going to bring in a couple officers. We've got the Archive Black Series Grand Moff Tarkin, who you can get for like $5 at Ross right now. And if you can find that deal, you better bounce on it. Then we've got Moff Gideon from The Mandalorian. Next, we'll bring in a couple specialty troopers. We've got the Dark Trooper, also from The Mandalorian, and the Black Series Purge Trooper. And we can get those guys out of there. Next, I want to bring in a couple Sith. We've got the new Black Series Darth Malgus, which you'll notice pretty much all my Star Wars figures are Black Series aside from one other one. This is actually my first SHfiguarts Star Wars figure, but Darth Malgus looks so good alongside Vader. And continuing with some of that Old Republic love, we've got Darth Revan. Next, we've got what I treat on my shelf as an evil Luke, my little Kit Bash Luke, a Luke that decided to join his father on the dark side. He was tired of that farm life. And again, one of my favorite Vader figures, we're going to bring in the Vintage Collection Vader, which unironically has one of the best head sculpts for a Vader figure, being one that also pops apart. So pretty crazy they were able to execute so well on such a small figure. And we can get those guys out of there. Next, we'll bring in some Star Wars good guys. We've got his Padawan, Ahsoka from Season 7. As well as Obi Wan in his Jedi Legends attire. And Ahsoka said, "Not today." Then we've got Anakin's closest confidant, Captain Rex. We'll also bring in his daughter, the woman who ultimately led to his eventual downfall. Then we've got the Black Series Luthen from Andor, which, man, I had no interest in this figure until I watched Andor, and then I was like, I need a Luthen figure. He's too badass. And lastly, the Black Series Saw Gerrera, which is such an underrated figure that deserves more love. And we can get those out of there. Now we're going to get into the miscellaneous characters. We've got some heroes to put alongside them. We got the 1000 Toys Master Chief. We've got the SHfiguarts Super Saiyan 4 Goku. The SHfiguarts Miles Morales. The Marvel Legends Iron Man. I can't remember which version of Iron Man this is, but pretty cool figure. And lastly, we've got the McFarlane Toys Nightfall Batman, which is definitely a bit too big in this scene here, I would say, but it just shows how well McFarlane Toys is improving as of late, and if they can keep doing what they did with this figure, man, I can't wait. And we can get those guys out of there. Next, we'll do some miscellaneous bad guys. We've got somebody who looks like they could be another Moth, the Marvel Legends Red Skull from the What If series. Then we've got the G.I. Joe Commander Cobra. Then we've got the Marvel Legends King Thanos, as well as the Masters of the Universe Skeletor. And we can get those guys out of there. Let's go for a handful more miscellaneous characters. We've got the Figma Reaper from Overwatch. We've also got the Devil Toys Ghost of Kurosawa, who has some very deep Darth Vader influences. Really cool to see them alongside each other. We've got the G.I. Joe Classified Hawk, General Hawk, that I recently got. Such a cool figure. Next, we've got the Black Series Professor Hu Yang, who probably played a hand in teaching Anakin some lightsaber wielding techniques. Then we've got the Fortnite Victory Royale Series Menace. And for fun, here is Howard the Duck. And we can get those guys out of there. I wanted to throw in one more that I didn't get a chance to before. This is the Fortnite Victory Royale Series Brutus, who I really like to use as Vader's head of security, and we'll take him out. And lastly, you know how we do it. I'm going to put Vader alongside my original character, Laos, who in the holiday spirit is rocking a reindeer onesie, and he himself has received a new present for the holiday, that being in a new mask. Wow. And we'll put him alongside Vader here. And of course, we've got the Fresh Monkey Fiction Naughty or Nice collection, Jolly Santa, and one of his little helpers in the Jazzwares Fortnite 3.75-inch Doggo. Alright y'all, that's going to do it for this video. I've had a lot of fun playing with this Vader figure. It is honestly a joy to pose around. It feels imposing and ever present on the shelf, and finagling with that cape has been a challenge on its own, but it's been a fun thing to figure out and tame. I'm really interested in what you guys think of the figure, if you feel like it's worth the resale prices, which yikes on that one, or if you think it is the definitive Vader in the same way that I do. I hope you guys are having an incredible holiday with your families, whatever it is you celebrate, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas, you name it. I hope you're spending some time with your family and enjoying it and staying warm in the cold weather. I hope you guys got some awesome figures for this holiday season. This Vader figure is a welcome addition to help celebrate the holiday, and I'm glad to have got it before it sold out, because woo, again, those prices. That being said though, I'm gonna let you guys get back to spending time with your family. That's all I've got for now. Check out my Instagram, I post pics like these, and check out another video where I grab a random figure to talk about, or some shit. I don't know. Bye y'all.